Hello everyone and welcome along to the RPL season preview. A lot of you like this kind of video and a lot of you are going to love or maybe hate some of our opinions, but nonetheless, it is time for the season preview for the upcoming seasons. We have season 16 tier 2, we have season 4 tier 3, we have season 22 of Formula 2. We have lots to go over, and as you may have already seen in, at least at the time this will be uploaded, it'll be yesterday's video of our schedule review. You would have already heard what tracks are in each calendar for each tier. You have tier 2, tier 3, F2, and we also went over the conclusion of the F1 season as well with the calendar. You can view that on our YouTube channel, RPL Formula 1, which is probably what you're watching off of, but we're not going to go over the schedule this video. We're going to go over our lineups and our predictions and preview the upcoming seasons like we have for the past how many ever seasons. But this time, instead of having RPL Titan Iron with me, I've got RSF1 Invade with me. I'm Ryan Searles. He's RSF1 Invade. Invade, it's good to have you. And I'm ready to get this thing rolling. This is going to be a lot of fun, these brand new seasons. Lots of good lineups. And you know what? Especially as of when we're recording this, there are a lot of rumors I've heard about in terms of drivers thinking about dropping rides, drivers who might get promoted in certain places. A lot of things might change from this, but luckily not too many.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a good season for Tier 2, Tier 3 and F2. Hopefully, obviously, we've not got all the contracts signed, so we do hope to have those done. And also predictions today. People will hate them, people might love them, but they're here anyway.
I know, last season I predicted for Tier 3 Netsky to be the champion, or Devin, and neither one of them really came close. Only one of them won a race, and Lyra Fusion was not even in our conversation. So this is going to be a lot of fun, and yeah, let's get to it. So we're going to go over lineups maybe a little bit differently, I guess, in some way, but I got them from the TPs, and this should be quite a lot of fun. So we're going to start with Tier 3. It's the 4th season of Tier 3. We've had 3 different champions, could have a 4th. We'll talk about predictions for what that could be very, very soon. So Tier 3, we're going to start off with our Constructors champion, Ferrari. They have RSF1 Invade, yours truly over here next to me, and then
Yes.
SV, returning driver. He had his race ban and season ban, whatever you want to call it, lifted, so he'll be back. Then your runner-up team, McLaren. They will be having Jake Bandy alongside Timbed. We'll talk about if we think that's the best lineup or Ferraris later on. Obviously, those two teams came 1-2 in the Constructors, followed by Red Bull. Red Bull have AMS Devon and no one else alongside him. But they did sign a driver who did come back to RPL. He didn't do a race before. They did sign him as a reserve. His name is Slicks, one of Invade and I's mates that we know. And if everything goes right, he may get signed to Red Bull full-time. Who knows what happens, but a lot to play out for. If that is the case, obviously he'll be one of our rookies we talk about. And Timbed, one of our drivers we talked about months ago, changing academies. He's not the only one. Next in our lineup would be Haas. And Haas, for Tier 3, have Beatnik and Maddie. Beatnik currently staying in the same place. See if that stays the same or not. Based on rumors or not, I might say the same with everything that's going on. Maddie and Haas coming over from the Alpine/McLaren Academy. Mercedes were 5th in the Constructors, and then we'll go out of order after that. But Mercedes, they are having Alistair go to their main Mercedes spot, changing academies there. And I don't really know how to pronounce his name, but KJJS. I don't really know his EA name. Invade might have to. Yeah, and do you know if his EA name's any different than his Discord?
No, it's the exact same.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, he'll be full-time on Mercedes, technically one of our rookies for the upcoming season. So, now, since we've gone over the top 5 in Constructors, in that order, we can go out of order for our next drivers. Mercedes, to finish off their academy, you have Mally and Mythic and Aston. You want to talk about an OG lineup? Well, there you have one. Mally, a returning driver. Williams, getting a new driver, have Wrecked by Storm. They do not have a second driver for Williams for Tier 3. They are looking for one. So if you want to put your voice forward, maybe, Cord Williams, go ahead and do so. Doesn't mean you'll be signed, but you could do that if they don't find anybody when this is uploaded. Sauber have 100 Max and Noah Boy, drivers who've not made over 10 starts in their RPL careers, but both of them changing academies, you could say, because Noah Boy did not start the season with Ferrari Academy. Alpine Academy with the Alpine lineup have Netsky and Spangley. And VCarb, lastly, yours truly, Ryan Searles here, and Leon Miner. Some of them will call that the meme lineup because I did not hit my objectives besides finishing top 3 in the constructors, but it's not all about me. It's about Leon, who's next to me, which that should be tons of fun. Everyone loves Leon, so we'll see what they do. Invade, I'm going to ask you first.
Okay.
And that whole lineup we just went through, who do you see as the best lineup?
I'll say it's between 2 teams. It's between myself and SV at Ferrari and Jake Bandy and Tim Bed at McLaren. Just because 2 very strong lineups. Yeah. And McLaren and Ferrari again for another season.
Yeah, I do think it may end up that way in the constructors. Obviously, like I said, we'll talk about that later, but I would have to give McLaren the extra edge on this one. McLaren have Jake Bandy, as you said. Jake Bandy, top 5s in Tier 2 in races that he probably should have not got them in, to be honest, except for Hungary. Some have said behind the scenes, whether it's a driver who may have influence or not, that Jake Bandy might be too fast. We'll find out. He's got to definitely pick up his mojo and pick up things to get better, and maybe that's why he's McLaren in Tier 3 for a season. Look at what Fusion did, and Tim Bed coming over from Mercedes, he had some great performances in the Mercedes when the car was not the best. I say McLaren's our best lineup. I don't even think it's close. But outright pace-wise, might say otherwise. We'll see later on. So that brings us to our next question. Who do you see on this as the weakest lineup? I'll go first this time. I think the weakest lineup, personally, has to be... I hate to do this to you, Invade. I'm not going to discredit Williams at all because they only have 1 driver. But Sauber have Noah Boy and Hunter Max. I remember when they started with, I believe it was Zora and someone else at the start of last season.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. If you want to go one step worse, this is the way to do it. These are drivers just simply learning, trying their best, and I don't fault them at all. But I don't see, unless Sauber have reserves, and Ferrari do have a lot of reserves, trust me, not as much as prior seasons, but they do have a lot of reserves. If they end up scoring points, it's gonna have to come from them. So I see Ferrari with their Sauber team having the weakest lineup, but it's not because they chose to. And these drivers, I hope they find progress. If there's a chaotic race, I'm praying to see one of them score points.
For my worst team, I'm gonna have to say Williams just because there is 1 driver, but Sauber is also on level with them. I do agree with you. It's 2 drivers who's not performed the best for their careers. They've not had much points, but I think when they get in the rhythm, like you said, a chaotic race, they could get a great result. Hopefully, this can help them and they have a great race, great season, and prove us wrong.
Next, our prediction is Drivers' Champ, and this is exactly where it all went wrong for me last season. I'm going to have you go first in this one, because I do feel like there's a few candidates to put forward.
Without ego, I would want to say myself, but...
You might be banned from Tier 3, I don't know.
Because of that, I'm not going to say myself. I'm gonna say it's between 2 drivers, okay?
Alright.
It's going to be between Jake Bandy, who, if he stays, will maybe win it, and SV. I think SV could win it just for the pure fact I know he's around my pace, and actually he could be quicker than me. So I think he will do a better job, and prove that yes he was banned, but he has improved since. And he could, and I'm going to say will win the championship, SV.
Okay. I'm taking some drivers out of the conversation here, and I'm going to explain why a bit better this time than last season. I'm taking SV out of the conversation. I do think he will win races this season, and that'll be part of my bold prediction maybe, but I think there are times this season where I feel like he's going to have the Jake Bandy moments he had during this season. Whether it's his fault or not, he's unlucky, and just the inexperience around this grid is going to keep him from winning the championship. I'm taking Devin and Alistair out of the equation because they don't show up to enough races. Whether that's their fault or not, it doesn't matter. You're not going to end up winning the championship by missing so many races. Fusion missed one race, Alex missed one. So that says enough for me in terms of that. Mally does not have a bad shout in the Aston. I think he's a very big underdog, but not going to win the championship. So that's pretty much bringing me down to basically a few names here. I've got yourself, Invade. I've got Jake Bandy left in this. I've got Tim Bed left in this, and that's it. It is all going to come down to the fact if you stay tier 3, because we said we'll go over some rumors during this, as I did mention to you privately. There's a chance you do end up banned from tier 3. And Jake Bandy, his pace at the start of this upcoming season could prove the same thing there. Tim Bed's been fast in the Mercedes and may translate to the McLaren. You don't know with these kind of cars, but I think it's just between you or Jake Bandy, really. I think Jake Bandy, he's not always got the results. I feel like he's got the Alex Norris kind of feeling into this season where, Alex was fast in qualifying in season 3, but couldn't really translate it to the races. And then as the season went on, he found something. I think just because the experience in this tier, I'd have to give you the edge. But Jake Bandy and McLaren, that'll lead me to my next topic. I think McLaren's going to be Constructors Champions this season. I think McLaren will win the Constructors Championship. They've got the best lineup, in my opinion. Jake Bandy and Tim Bed, you have drivers coming over who have great experience in this tier. Tim Bed, the German driver from Mercedes, got great results. Jake Bandy trying to bring himself up once again. McLaren are going to win the Constructors, but I don't think it's going to be without a fight, that's for sure. So, yeah, Invade is my Drivers' Championship prediction, but McLaren my Constructors.
I actually agree with you. I believe McLaren will win the Constructors, just for the fact. Overall, I think they could do a very good job. If Tim Bed can do what he did at the last part of this season, I think they will have the strongest chance of winning this Constructor Championship.
And I'm not taking Tim Bed out of the chance for the drivers, by the way. I think Jake Bandy's luck could definitely, make things different. But hey, we're on 2 drivers who will overperform and underperform now. We're gonna name one driver who we think will overperform and one driver who will underperform. I'll go first on this one. I think the driver that will overperform what they're doing in their car, there's a lot of options here, guys. I'm gonna have to say, I want to say Mally, but there's someone else I think is going to be more impressive. And that's another driver that starts with M. I think Maddie from Haas. And
okay.
I wanted to go with someone else different, but I think the Alpine stint, he was just all right in the midfield. I feel like for some reason that Haas is going to suit him more experience in this game. Again, he used to be a tier 1 driver in other leagues back in the day. I just feel like that Haas, he's going to be able to extract the most he can. And it's for my driver who's going to underperform. I mean, I would love to say myself and be right, but I feel like 2 seasons in a row, I have every right to say this driver. And I really hope they change my mind, because you know what? The performances have not been great. 11 points last season in Aston Martin. One person said they were the driver who underperformed, but not enough to be the most. I think Mythic's going to underperform. And it's not because of any vendetta or anything against him, but he has a lot of great pace, but he never finishes races well. And I hope I'm proved wrong. Please do, guys. Please prove me wrong. Invade, who do you think will overperform and underperform?
For the overperform, I do have 2 drivers here. It's not the one that you mentioned. I actually have the other half of Beatnik. I think Beatnik, he showed multiple times last season and in tier 3 and tier 2 that he could do well. I believe Beatnik is definitely one of them, and the other one being Neski. Neski didn't prove much when he was in the McLaren, but he said he's better in the slower cars. He did show a bit more of an improvement when he was in the Alpine at the end of the season. So it's between them two. I can't really decide, but I'm gonna have to say Neski. For the underperformer, I want to agree with you, but I want to go with someone different. I want to say, staying in the same academy, I'm going to say Alistair from Mercedes, just for the fact
Interesting.
He's not turned up to enough races to prove himself, and also the fact that he's never driven a top car before, so it could be interesting to see what he actually does.
Yeah, I mean, the one race he got a podium in Tier 2 in the first ever race under the Tier 2 banner. It technically wasn't a top car, I believe, so yeah, you do make a point.
I think just because he's not shown a lot of pace this season. Yes, he's driven that Haas and Sauber, and he's got a bit unlucky, but I'm not confident.
I know, it's tough.
Him.
Yeah, I wanted to say Netsky for my driver who will overperform, but instead of using SV for my bold prediction, I'm gonna use Netsky as my bold prediction, and I'll probably get this wrong once again, but I think Netsky will get a podium in that Alpine this season. The only team I believe in Tier 3 yet to have a podium, or if they do, it happened a little bit ago. I mean, I can obviously check. I have a stat sheet up in front of me of just a different tier. But Netsky, he performs better in these slower cars. He was just off a podium in a Williams in Tier 3 last season, in Season 2, before Season 3. Yeah, Alpine are the only team in Tier 3 without a podium. I feel like he'll be the... If it's right for anybody to get the first podium with them, it's him. And I think Netsky will get the first Alpine podium this season. That's my bold prediction. Please don't disappoint.
My bold prediction is Mali will win at least a race this season.
Fair play.
Maybe two.
The experience does go a long way, it must be said.
I think he'll win either one or two races this season, just for the fact, just going off that last race, he was insanely quick.
Yeah.
And he's been quick. He got a podium in the Aston at Monza. So
you're right, and that Aston is better than the Merc at some tracks, so you got a fair point.
Exactly. I think he will do very well.
Well, it's time to go over Season 16 of Tier 2, and we're going to start with our Constructors' Champions, McLaren. McLaren have a rookie, technically. If you don't call it a rookie, you definitely call it a returning driver. Lero Fusion's their second driver. Their first is Polagod. Polagod finished second 3 times now in the RPL Championship, once in Tier 2, twice in F2. Our next drivers are from the Mercedes Academy and Merc Camp. You'd have to go with George and Mentoki. George spoke about the possibility of him not continuing racing full-time, which is very interesting, because we would have a chance at not seeing him go 3 in a row and do the three-peat, but Mentoki in that lineup returning. We'll speak about George later on. That would be interesting to see that happen, but I don't hope it happens at all. We've got Ferrari next. Ferrari have a brand new lineup. Tier 2 definitely looks a lot more competitive this season. We've got Night Owl and Lennon in their lineup, both moving academies, as you could tell. Next would be the Aston Martin lineup. In Tier 2, you have the Aston, made up of Gagi, who's returning after being unbanned, and Midfield Maestro alongside there. Got a podium for them in the Portugal race. Next, and last out of the top 5 teams this season, you have Red Bull, and they're occupied by Danny and Penguin, both from the Ferrari Academy. Can't wait to see what they make up this season. So, now, going through this a bit quicker, Alpine have F1 Shorts and Wooda. F1 Shorts is a rookie, Wooda is not. You do have, in Williams, just nobody right now, but Owen did say he might sign himself. If that is the case, we'll find out, but they don't have anybody in that Williams. If you'd like to campaign for a Williams seat, be my guest. We do have drivers like JTK, who don't have a full-time ride in Tier 2, is allowed back in Tier 2. We have the possibility of Reese Dainty dropping down to Tier 2 due to performances. I know he mentioned could get a breath of fresh air there. There's a lot of drivers who could go down to Tier 2 from Tier 1 or be signed to full-time spots. But we'll talk about someone who won't be Tier 2 as of a few hours ago in just a moment. In the V-Carb, we have J&T and Zakaria. J&T, a former champion, returning. Zakaria also returning. Pick Sauber, they have Kieran and Hyper. And Hyper is technically a rookie. Someone else who's a rookie would have been Alex Norris. But Alex Norris, per George, this is a co-owner, so you gotta trust this opinion and trust this.
Do you mind if I barge in?
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
George actually told me in the Tier 2 chat, Alex Norris might be banned. He gave me the heads up.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Thank you. Thank you. But if he is not banned, he would be a Tier 2 rookie. Technically. He's whatever you classify rookie as. He's not ran a full season in Tier 2 and promoted from Tier 3. Alongside him would be Chalke. And yeah, there you have it for your lineups from Season 16 Tier 2. Let's talk about what we think the best lineup is. I'm glad you went in to clarify that. That's a maybe, not necessarily confirmed. Best lineup in Tier 2? There's a lot to choose from. And, you know, assuming that there's nothing interfered on pending, you know, whatever happens with George now, you know, deciding to drop the game and drop his ride, I would say it's Mercedes with George and Mentoki. If George does choose to do that, I think you got to give the best lineup to basically a tie between Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull with their cars, because you could make an argument for either one of them being the best lineup. They all have their weaknesses and strengths, but yeah, I got to go with the Mercedes of George and Mentoki. What do you think, Invade?
I'd agree. Everything what you said there. Mercedes is definitely the best lineup. It all depends if George commits to the game. I'll say Ferrari and McLaren are practically equal though. But Mercedes, if they keep George and Mentoki, they're a step above.
Either way, now we go to our weakest lineup, and no question about it, kind of like you said in Tier 3, I gotta go Williams because they don't have anybody. And I think especially, you know, being the team principal of a team Invade, you know, you're supposed to fill cars each and every week to race. Williams have done that quite a bit, from Tier 3 drivers racing Tier 2 or drivers who are reserves, but they don't even have anybody racing for them full-time. And I don't know if that's going to change soon, even if someone like a JTK is full-time again, or Reese drops to Tier 2 somehow. Whatever happens there in terms of the rumors that we've heard or the speculation, I still can't find a possible way that the Williams gets filled. It would just be a reserve racing each week, and that to me speaks of the weakest lineup as of right now in Tier 2.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Williams, only because they don't have a second driver, and even when they get Owen, I don't think they'll be the strongest. But if we're going off teams with a full lineup, I'm gonna have to say the weakest Tier 2 lineup with both drivers confirmed is Sauber, just for the fact Kieran, he might not make a lot of races, and Hyper is a rookie, quite unproven as well.
Obviously, Hyper, recent races, not been the best for him. Hoping that he can change things around there. He's got a lot of talent. And then our driver's champion. I'm not messing around this season. And I think last season in Tier 3 and Brazil in Tier 2 proved why this is just the right choice. Zero Fusion is going to be the Tier 2 champion. Yeah, I'm going crazy. I probably am. I'm sick. You guys can hear it. But I might be sick in my own mind for choosing this way. However, I'll explain. I doubted him in Tier 3 last season when he moved down there. Tier 2, he had that Ferrari stint, very short time there, and also was a part of the Ferrari Academy. This guy has been about proving himself time and time again. He clearly is Tier 2 pace, and he's only just a step behind Alex Norris, who might even be going Tier 1. And if Alex Norris is too fast for Tier 2, then what does that say about Fusion, who's only been behind him? Fusion's the class of the field right now, and just because you move George to Mercedes doesn't mean it's going to be smooth sailing for him. I think Real Fusion is your driver's champion, but I can make arguments for other drivers who are going to be super close. I think this will be the tightest Tier 2 race, tightest Tier 2 season that we've ever seen. You have Penguin in the mix. He's in Red Bull now. He has a lot of pace. A lot of great chances he's had to win races, but he got super unlucky. That takes him out of the equation for me. Danny, he misses qualifying a lot. Always on the back foot. That takes him out of the equation for me. Polo God, this guy, super fast. Super fast. I would like to see him win the championship, but it's not going to happen. I'd be in my dreams for that. But he won a race last season. Fair play. Deserves the credit. Just not going to win the championship. Then you have Mercedes, who have Mintoki. And I do think some of these tracks suit her car. And I do think she'll be in the race. But strategies, unluckiness, that takes her out of the equation. And then Ferrari have Night Owl and Lennon. Night Owl gets in too many incidents in my opinion. And the connection does seem like an issue here and then. But I could see why some would outrule me on that. And then Lennon, poor qualifying. And you need qualifying on this game to do well. You know who's got good qualifying, even if he does not qualify in pole? Real Fusion. He'll be the Tier 2 champion this season. Prove me wrong, Invade.
I believe that it's between two drivers. And I'm not saying Fusion. I'm saying...
Okay.
Night Owl or Mintoki.
Okay.
Mintoki, she's fast. We all know she's fast, but she's just insanely unlucky. So, on that note, I'm saying Night Owl will be your champion, just for the fact he's now in a better car. He won a race in an Aston Martin in that competitive grid. He will be insane. Now he's got that better car. It's going to be better in the straight line for him. And I feel like he will prove himself a lot more and will win that championship and with more races. But Mintoki will be very close.
Yeah. I think this is going to be our tightest Tier 2 season in terms of the championship. You put George in a worse car. You put the two drivers in McLaren. One's a rookie. One is someone who is really good, like Polo, but seems to bottle under pressure. This is going to be a scintillating season. And now you got to ask who's going to be the Constructors' champion. It's going to be between Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull, really. Maybe Mercedes. This is so tight. I said Mercedes is the best lineup, but just because it's the best lineup does not mean they're going to win the title. Yeah. Part of me feels like Ferrari. I feel like I gotta give this to Ferrari. Just because Lennon's got his circuits that he's good at. Night Owl will be in the championship contention. I don't know if Polo's gonna last the full season for McLaren. That McLaren does seem like a cheat code. But yeah, I think Ferrari's just got everything right for him this time compared to prior seasons. Just can't get unlucky.
I've got 3 teams. And Red Bull's not one of them. McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes. Now, Mercedes, it obviously depends on if George stays motivated and wants to play the game. Same with Polo for McLaren. So, I'm going to say Mercedes wins the championship. And
I feel like I'm doubting them too much, you know?
I believe this is because George is going to stay motivated. He's going to be behind Mintoki, and I feel like Lennon's not going to be as close to Night Owl. He will be up there, but I don't think he'll be as close, and I don't feel like Polo God will stay motivated for the whole season. So I'm saying Mercedes.
Yeah, it's so tough to predict. It really is. And I don't think Mercedes I don't think they wouldn't win it because the drivers. I just don't think they have the car at every circuit. I do think the schedule does give them a more of advantage to stay in the constructors fight longer. Yeah, there's a lot of drivers who are unlucky, and I'm taking that into consideration. I'm taking a lot of scenarios into consideration with this being said. So, we're going to go over one driver who will overperform and one driver who will underperform. I think one driver who's going to underperform this season, here, I hope I'm proven wrong. I think one driver who's going to underperform this season, please don't kill me, Blue Goggy. Goggy's going to underperform this season in the Aston. It's a complete change for him, being unbanned, back racing on this grid. Doesn't have to perform straight away anyway, but, for him, he's not really raced outside the Ferrari or Red Bull Academy. And now he's with the Aston. It's a bit of an unknown for him. And I feel like there's too many unknowns. It doesn't mean he's not going to have one or two good results here and there, but maybe outside of that, it's just not good enough. And then one driver who will overperform, I feel like there's definitely one driver that's gone under the radar a little too much. And maybe they win their first race this season. Maybe they don't. But you know what? FX7 Danny, this new change I think is exactly what he needed. Get out of Ferrari, go to Red Bull, be alongside your teammate who you've been working so well with, and you win your first race this season. I mean, that's a driver who will overperform. And, Red Bull, you are expected to win races. Duh. But, I mean, I should know that. But, it must be said that going under the radar just shy of wins, getting on the podium 4 or 5 times now in Tier 2, that win has got to come soon. I feel like this change puts him in a better spot. Sometimes people just need changes with cars, and this is the one that gets Danny to overperform.
For my underperformer, I'm going to say this is going to be difficult, man. It's going to be really difficult.
Right?
I think I'm going to have to agree with you. I'm going to have to say Blue Doggy.
Hate to say it, I really do.
I just don't think he'll be up to speed. He took a massive break from the game. Obviously, he's getting back into it. I don't feel like he will be that competitive.
Even in IRS, he's not been as much, though.
Exactly. I'd love to be proven wrong.
Me too. Please do. I mean, I was proven wrong last season, so. Yeah.
And for my overperformer, I'm gonna have to say F1 Shorts.
I knew that was coming.
He got a pole in Tier 2 in his first race in a top car. He got a podium as well. He's a very talented driver, and the guy basically lives on the game. he basically lives on the game. He doesn't get.
He lives
off
in the
it.
F124 headquarters.
He literally doesn't get off the game. There's just no. There's no saying he won't overperform.
He's taking less showers this year than F1 races this year.
Exactly.
I don't even think that's
he's a
possible.
quality merchant as well. But I feel like he'll score a lot of points, and he will be the overperformer.
I will say, I do think him and Woda can actually bounce off each other quite a bit, and we'll find out if that does remain true for the upcoming season. So, speaking of predictions, yeah. So, one bold prediction. Time for that. I'll let you go first on that one.
Ooh, bold prediction.
I know, because there's so many chances to say a lot of silly things, and I'm going to get crucified for it.
This is going to be difficult to even give one. I'm going to say that I actually can't think of one.
I know, this video's going to be longer than it should be because we can't think of what to say.
Alex Norris gets another podium. He got one today, last round of.
Even bonus point.
He got a podium today in Brazil, last round. I feel like he'll get another one if he stays unbanned.
Oh my word! Okay, so what if he is banned from the tier? Who are you saying then?
Right.
I'm going for it.
I'm gonna say Alpine beat Aston Martin in the championship.
You're taking my prediction almost. I was gonna say something about them, but I'm glad I didn't now. Yeah, that's a fair point. Okay.
That's really difficult because I feel like
Yeah,
Alpine,
I know.
Alpine definitely have a strong lineup. Both two quality merchants. Midfield Maestro, he got podiums, he got very good results last season. But Goggy's so unproven. I'm just not sure.
Okay, I've got a question for you, and you know this answer, okay? So, how many times did Danny miss a race for Ferrari this season of the 10? Like 2 or 3, maybe?
He missed 1, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And the only reason he missed it is because I panicked and thought he wasn't going to finish his league race before.
Yeah, I know.
But he did.
Okay, so I'm gonna get Clown Hunt for this, but I was gonna say what I was gonna say if you said it was more than 1. If it was more than 1, I was gonna say he gets the call up to Red Bull, and and then Zakaria would win a race because he'd probably maybe be the first guy up. I don't know, but I'm not saying that anymore. I'm not saying that anymore. I'm gonna say. Oh, this is so tough. This is so tough. Ugh. Man, oh my word.
It's difficult, isn't it?
You're right, it is.
There's a lot of options.
There is a lot of options. Okay. Silence is tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
I gotta stick with the Alpine Academy, though, because I see something there. I mean, obviously, my prediction for Fusion winning the championship is already bold enough as it is, but I gotta go with something with Schwartz or Woda here, and I think I know what I'm going with. I think I know what
you're gonna say.
Okay. So, look at these tracks on the calendar very, very quickly.
Okay.
Fancy a wet quali anywhere? I fancy there's a chance for quite a bit of them. All right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm about to say?
Yeah.
Schwartz or Woda, either driver, because both of them are very big qualifying merchants, youngest lineup on this grid, get pole in one of the races this season. I am, you know what? We saw Alex Norris get pole in a mixed condition qualifying at Brazil. Okay, I know there's arguments. Oh, you might be too fast for the tier, but that's in a Haas still. And you know what? Qualifying's the great equalizer. Woulda put a P5 in a Sauber once 2 seasons ago in tier 2 in qualifying. Schwartz got pole in a Red Bull in his first top car start. You know what? It's not out of the question. We're going to see an Alpine get on pole once again in RPL tier 2. It'll be the first time since Vegas season 9, and we're going to see it from one of these two. Yeah, I went there. I really did.
That is bold.
It is bold, but you know what? If they're not doing that, then it's going to be a podium. It's going to be a podium if it's not that. So I'm confident in either of the two. Now, if you have a Uri or Turbo situation where one of the drivers leave, I'm not so confident, but I don't think that'll happen. They love RPL. So either way, we're going to go over quickly Season 12 Formula 1, halfway point of the season. I have been made aware there are drivers in Tier 1 that are allowed to race in Tier 2. We've got the notification and the awareness that JTK is allowed to race in Tier 2. He did in Brazil, Tier 2. Restained, he's allowed to move down now. It's seeming like more by the rumors do circulate. If that is, that'll be a good motivation, keeper for him and whatnot. Maxwell can, but he's not wanting to. And obviously, if Reese is allowed to, then you're going to make the argument for Tadpole doing so. And if you keep your TP, then that could possibly happen. Now, one driver that could be promoted is Alex Norris. Invade, I think this does a lot in terms of what the seats could provide and everything like that. If Reese somehow moves down and stuff like that, Hell, Alex Norris somehow could be in a V-Carb if he does transfer academies. He could even be in the Sauber. There's a lot of things that could go on, but, our halfway break is not far away from us in RPL Tier 1. And not even halfway break, our part of the season where things start to get ramping up like crazy. It's the end of the game cycle almost. And those kind of things are going to be wild to think about if they do go through.
Yeah, definitely. Alex Norris, obviously, if he does get banned, he did score his first points in Tier 1 in the Sauber, so he could be a massive shout. Obviously, Dainty, Tadpole, Maxwell, and who was the other one who could go down? Was there another one?
I did say JTK, but
JTK
he already is going down.
Uh,
Yeah, I said Maxwell could, but he's not gonna want to, as I've already heard.
Yes.
He's declined that offer.
JTK, if he gets a C, he will be amazing. Obviously, I feel the main talking point for the mid-season is going to be if Alex Norris gets banned and goes up, because obviously he will be a dark horse, I'd say.
I don't even think that's the only one, though. I think the fact that if Reece Dainty, if the rumors are true about him potentially thinking about moving down to Tier 2 and trying to get a little confidence boost from that, because the admins do feel like his pace isn't great, and he has barely hit his objectives. You can thank Leo Lund for, basically being a plow truck in the last few races for doing that for him, but, I feel like this whole situation for Tier 1 right now and everything with what potential promotions and demotions, I think it all depends on what George does too right now for Tier 2, because George said he really was serious about it, I'm thinking of just maybe giving up my seat, thinking of racing only when I want, I just don't like this game right now. I feel like there's three big things this all revolves around: Alex being promoted, Reece maybe being demoted, and George giving up a seat. All those three things, it's going to create a whole musical chair effect. And you know what? There's not as many drivers to replace as there used to be. So, before we get to F2 to end this off, that's definitely an interesting talking point, no doubt about it. Can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah. Obviously, I don't think Dainty will go down, but
I think
F2.
he would. I think he would. I'll read this. Okay.
Alright.
I don't know if I'm supposed to, so we'll find out. But I'm just reading this message. I left it on red, but it was Egg said he's thinking of dropping somebody in Red Bull, but I don't know what he's up to. He first has to get Jack's thought on this first, because George was also in the party at the time of this conversation. He said he needs to ask Jack if I'm allowed back in Tier 2 first of all. But this conversation sparked when it came to Reece's Tier 1 pace not being up to date. And, again, just speculation. You don't know what could happen. But if it does, this is going to create a crazy final Tier 2 season. I mean, it already is crazy enough. And Tier 1 might even change from it as well. So, there's a lot to talk about. But yeah, as you said, F2 time. And guys, I won't lie. If you're a team principal, you better start signing some contracts, because Ferrari is the only team that I'm aware of that has all their contracts signed. Besides that, there's not even anything really that I found. And it could be, people not putting the words F2 or Season 22 in their contract. But Ferrari Academy have Night Owl, Goatley, Minico, and SV signed. And then outside of that, there's just Jack from McLaren/Alpine Academy. Not really anything to go over there, but it does make it tough predicting for that. But even then, I think the first question we got asked from these lineups, besides, we can't even give a best or worst lineup from this, but does F2 survive another season with this being said?
It's definitely questionable. Obviously, we're not all sure if it will. Do you expect a couple more contracts to be signed? Obviously, Ferrari Academy, my academy, having all the contracts signed. Not to brag, obviously.
It makes you look good. It makes you look good, though.
But from the drivers that we do have signed, Jack Miles, he's won championships a lot this year.
I assume Skither will continue. It's his tier.
Yeah, you'd assume that. Obviously, we've got Night Owl, who's really good in F2 as well. F3 returning to F2 after all the chaos when he was in there.
Oh gosh.
Goatley, he could be a potential new winner in there, depending on the
Yeah,
race,
one of his only
sprint
tiers he
race.
can only make. Yeah, he can't make tier 2 anymore.
He can make tier 1 though, so he could turn up for tier 1.
F2 as well, as you said.
Yep. And Miniko, he hasn't raced much since he dropped his seat, but if he can stay motivated, he could be in a good shot of the title. You'd assume the safe prediction is to just say Jack will win the championship over, and probably Skidder be second or win it either. I would say Jack though.
I think whoever wins this title on Sunday, you got to give the favorite to for next season, whether it be Skidder or Jack. I mean, it's going to be either one of those two, but you don't know which one it will be. I mean, it either will be Skidder or Jack. Miniko only puts himself in the conversation rarely if he does stay motivated, turns up to every race, and did what Jack did a few seasons ago, where, you know, you just get the results when your rivals aren't there, and that's why Jack said he won the 2 titles he did, or at least one of them. And I think that's the only way Miniko or someone outside of Jack or Skidder put themselves in the conversation. I think it's an obvious Jack or Skidder championship, but it's definitely hard to predict with these contracts. I mean, you got to think someone like Raza will race again. I mean, he's someone who it's more predicting who's going to race really this season with this part.
He's F2 exclusive.
Yeah, he does seem like he's F2 exclusive. Titan's F2 exclusive as well. I mean, if there's a smaller grid and, we continue like we did in smaller grid fields, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like season 10, I think it was, back when F2 was definitely on its downward spiral, I feel like F2 always needs something to get it back going. And I would love to talk about this all day if I could, but, get some of our unbanned drivers back in F2. I feel like if you give them a shot to race F2 and make them prove themselves, I'm not even going to, I know Zora will automatically put himself in that conversation and say, hey, bring me back. But you know what? It's not a bad show for some of these drivers who need to prove themselves in order to deserve the right to race F1 cars again. I feel like SV, you spoke about him being back. If he had got the chance to race F2 during the time he was banned completely from racing for quite a few months, I feel like he would have been someone to give himself a chance and say, look, if you allow me to race, I can prove myself that I can. I'm not saying F2 would be taken on serious because of it. We already had some esports guys take it unserious that shouldn't have been racing. I mean, obviously, Leo Lund excluded from that category for the most part, but, I feel like if we have F2 kind of come back in the sense of, allowing drivers to prove themselves like that, I feel like you can get the attendance to make sure you have races running and not being canceled, because we did have Abu Dhabi at the end of last season get canceled, and I think drivers like Gagi, Zora, I know he's banned, but, there's other drivers, even Make PK, I've not heard about him, but, just drivers who are banned or not allowed to race, even Turn would maybe come back. I don't know. It's just a thought. Because, Invade, I really do think about it a lot. Racing these F1 cars, whether it's Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, they're focused on a lot more than F2. Racing F2 is an outside thing for a lot of these people. But racing F1 cars should be very much a privilege. And, some people tend to forget that at times. So that's what I think. That's what I think would bring up this F2 attendance, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, you can make the argument for some drivers to come back. Not all of them who are banned, but some.
Some would.
But
yes, definitely not people who said the N-word, and we know who we're referring to.
I do agree. People need to treat this division a bit better. It's one of the most prestigious tiers in the league. It's given so much entertainment, so many different winners, champions, and all that.
Alex Farage just won last week.
We have champions that we don't even expect. We even had Alex Norris, who doesn't usually race the F2 cars, win last week. So anything is possible. The tier should be treated better by the drivers and not taken as an advantage. So hopefully F2 can, get a bit better, get the attendance.
Yeah, I mean, it's the people like the esports drivers who came in and did that, last time at Hungary and Baku this past season that definitely make it worth not racing like that. And, I'm not gonna call anybody specifically, but, you look at people who drop their seat from it and you can understand why. See some names on here as well, like Shorts, he'll return for a few races, I bet. just get the track time he desperately needs for this upcoming season. Penguin I saw did Brazil. Zakaria did. I think Zakaria, if he does F2, I think he could win a race. Mythic did a race here and got a weekend ban because of not taking it seriously. It's the exact stuff like that where people don't take it seriously. Spangley raced, Matty raced, Vegas it was. KJJS, he was the one who's racing Mercedes, he raced it. And then the race before that in Saudi, we had 16 people racing. So, I mean, look at that. If you have people who take it seriously, that's what you can get. And obviously Baku, we had a full grid, but the attendance keeps getting inconsistent and it keeps dropping off. And like I said, if F2 can find a reason around it again, you know, you gotta have, I feel like for RPL F2, besides the academies now, you gotta have definitely some meaning to it. And it used to have meaning, but it doesn't have a meaning anymore. And I'm not saying you can't have it that way again, but I just gave you some reasons on why you can. So Invade, we said driver's champion. It's kind of hard to predict constructor's champion. You know, we agreed on either Jack or Skither. But you know, it's definitely hard to give someone who overperform or underperform. But do you have any bold predictions you can give for the tier?
Goatley's gonna win a race. Goatley's gonna win a race, and it's not gonna be a sprint. It's gonna be a feature.
Okay, so I have 2 first-time winners out of this brand new season if we make it the full way. Yep. Here's some potential drivers to do that. Raza, Zakaria, Goatley, SV, and Shorts. Those are, I mean, you take 2 of those drivers from that list, boom, there you go. Jack or Skither don't show up for a weekend, but other drivers do. You need a host? There you go. You know, that it doesn't mean Minico, Jack, and Skither, if they are racing still for that brand new season and whatnot, that they're just going to win every race. And like I said, F2 needs its meaning back. I'm not saying you have to put drivers who are not good in there. You know, you got Titan, who's been in that tier, and he's not won a race in RPL in 5 years. Zakaria hasn't either. You know, but just F2 needs its meaning back, and it does not have it. I feel like if you do something to spice it up, obviously Skither's the coordinator. If anyone wants to talk to him about that, be your guest, I guess. But I feel like if F2 can have that spice back at it, then there you go. But racing F1 cars, you know, for those not able to, because of reasons like SV had, you know, it needs to be a privilege. And obviously F2 could be where you prove that, but you still got to take it seriously because, you know, if you're going to race F1 cars, you got to deal with the tier coordinator, Skither. And it's just a suggestion. You know, I've brought it up once or twice before, but I don't know if anyone listens. And, well, there's at least one thing that someone in the admin team or, you know, coordinator can do. And I think that would get F2 back going again. I don't know. Do you have any ideas for what could get F2 back going once again? Because it does feel like this tier is hanging on by a needle again, and it's not right. It's not right to the tier that's lasted the longest besides F1.
I think you've covered everything really. They've tried changing the times in the day for the races.
Yeah,
it's not really worked much since.
I really do hope this tier does keep going, because a lot of people wanted this back over Formula Endurance when it wasn't continuing. People said bring F2 back, and then you got people who don't show up for F2. So you know, that's part of it. Yeah, I don't really know what else you can say, but folks, that is almost an hour of our season predictions for this upcoming season, our season preview. I'm Ryan Searles. He's RSF1 Invade. We're saying goodnight. Let us know in the comments down below what you guys thought of our predictions. Do you have any predictions with ours? Tell us what you think we got wrong or got right. Leave it down below in the comments. And until next time, folks, we hope to see you for the brand new season. And until then, have a good one.
Bye-bye.